Hi, I'm Max Keiser, and this is On the Edge. Time now. Well, first of all, let me point something out here. Look what I'm holding in my hand. This is the latest edition of the Trends Journal. This is the Bible that people refer to if they want to know what's going to be happening next month, next year, and for the next 10 years. Who is the editor of the Trends Journal? Why, it's Gerald Celente. Welcome back to On the Edge, Gerald.
Oh, thanks for having me on, Max. Always great being on with you.
What's happening from Cairo to Ohio? The world is engaged in a global, seemingly a global insurrection. Tell us, you predicted this a couple of years ago. You talked about the conditions that led to the uprisings in places around the world. It's an economic problem, and the dictators went too far, etc. Tell us a little bit about how you see this situation developing in the Mideast and around the world, developing from here.
When you look back at our Autumn Trends Journal, the headline was, "Off with Their Heads 2.0. You can see it coming. You know, as a Bronx guy, one of my sayings is that when people lose everything and have nothing left to lose, they lose it. They have this white shoe boy language. They call it austerity measures. Isn't that a proper term? What's an austerity measure? Well, if you're Irish, we're going to cut the minimum wage 12%. You're making nothing already. How about making a lot less more? And then what we're going to do is we're going to increase the service fees on everything while we cut services. Oh, one other thing. We're going to also cut back pensions and benefits, and we're going to increase the retirement age until after you die. And we're going to tax you across the board. It's for your own good because we have to save the banks. They can't get a haircut. The bondholders, the people who made bad bets. So all of it's going to be on your shoulders. Then after we wrote this, we saw what happened in the UK. They raised tuition prices 200% on university students. Not only do they have these degrees in worthlessness, now it's going to cost them 200% more to get one. So when you're looking at the facts, Max, here's the deal. You're living at home with your mother and father. You're in your late 20s. You have no future ahead of you. You can't get a job. And the people at the top of the pyramid are raking in all the dough. You think they're angry. So what we wrote before this happened was, students and youth of the world unite. We said the next revolution would be YouTubed, it would be Facebooked, and it would be Twittered. What we're seeing, Max, isn't about Tunisia or Egypt or Bahrain or Libya. It's about the beginning of the great war of the 21st century. It's all about money, has nothing to do with democracy, autocracy, plutocracy. It has to do with the bottom line. And the bottom line is that the pigs, the money junkies at the top, they can't get enough and they don't want to send anything down. So my other saying is, when the money stops flowing to Main Street, the blood starts flowing on the streets.
Right. Okay. Now, before the G20 meeting this year that just ended a couple of weeks ago, an idea was being floated. Two ideas were being floated. One was that to restart this global Ponzi scheme, this credit neoliberal model, it would be necessary to create some kind of new lending facility of $100 trillion, number one. Number two, Robert Zoellick of the World Bank floated the idea of bringing back to maybe a global currency or a new currency backed in part by gold. Can you talk about, you mentioned that it all comes down to money. These are 2 points that relate to this money question. It's the $100 trillion new credit facility. Where did that come from? Where is that going? Is there a new global currency coming? And what is gold's role in this, if any?
Well, gold has a huge role in it. And as you well know, we had forecast the bottom of gold in 2001. It's a very simple formula. the more digital money they kept printing, the higher the price of gold goes. And that's what's going on now. As you well know, one of the major factors behind all these commodity price rises are the devaluation of the dollar. And then you look what the European Union has done. They're playing the same Fed game. What have they... You know, they break every law that they make. They broke the Maastricht Treaty, the Lisbon agreements. You're not supposed to bail out failing nations or buy up bad debt from bad bets made by banks and bondholders. And they've done it. So they're flooding the world with this cheap currency. And now you're hearing Sarkozy, you're hearing Merkel, you're hearing Hu from China. They're all talking about a new world currency and pulling away from the dollar. Let's put this together, Max, as we move forward. The crash of 1929 equaled the panic of '08. The Great Depression equaled the Great Recession. The only reason we haven't gone fast into the Depression is because, again, of these trillions and trillions of dollars being printed by the central banks in Europe and the US. And then you put the next equation, the one you just brought into it. Currency wars, crash, depression, currency wars, oh, and now trade wars. Argentina, Brazil, they're all talking about it, putting up barriers to stop the free flow of cheap Chinese and other goods from coming in and undermining their market. Crash, depression, currency war, trade war, hot war. And that's what we're looking at now. What's going on, they say, you know how they teach you the stupid junk in school? World War I began because the Archduke Ferdinand was assassinated at Sarajevo. No, it didn't. It was the breakdown of the systems. And what you're seeing now are brush fires. Brush fire in Tunisia, brush fire in Yemen, brush fire in Libya, brush fire in Egypt, and now it's going to move to Europe. Europe is next. Greece, Portugal, Spain, Ireland, UK. We are on the doorstep of the first great war of the 21st century.
Okay, you mentioned World War I, and of course, preceding World War I is a great period of globalization, and then that globalization, the cheap money that fueled it ended, and that resulted, you could say, in this global conflict. Similarly, in 2007, 2008, you had what's called peak credit. Credit dried up and has caused tremendous strains around the world, and it's flaring up in these revolutions and revolts. What do you make of this, Gerald Celente? I'm looking over at Paul Farrell, who's a columnist at MarketWatch, which of course is a Dow Jones-owned website. He recently wrote an editorial saying that the Fed Director Bernanke is a dictator that needs to be toppled. Now that's pretty strong language coming from mainstream American press, characterizing the Fed chairman as a dictator that needs to be toppled, presumably like we're seeing regimes change in other countries. Is this a breakthrough in terms of the rhetoric in the U.S.? It seems like things are heating up in the U.S.
It is a breakthrough, and things are heating up. As you pointed out, what's going on in Ohio, what's going on in Wisconsin. You know, the people are taking to the streets. They're wise to the game. People didn't even know what the Federal Reserve was 5 years ago. And now you can talk to many people and they're angry about what's going on. And so when you hear it from MarketWatch and Ron Paul also growing in stature and getting more and more airtime coming out against the Fed, and even the mainstream business media on TV are coming out against Bernanke, that these are failed policies. And when you look at them, Max, let's look at what they're coming up with, the schemes from D.C. They're coming up with, oh, they talk about we're going to lower taxes, oh, we have to cut spending, oh, we have to put more stimulus in. These are the three cornerstones that they keep talking about. They've tried them all. They've tried them all and they've all failed. So what do they keep doing? They keep becoming emboldened by their failures. It's like the military. They keep losing these wars, and it's the same thing they say all the time. progress is being made. More men, more money, more time. Matter of fact, I just heard the president's, this is a great one. Go on YouTube and watch it. It's a laugh. It was on February 17th, the White House press conference. They have a new guy. His name is Carney. And it's a great name for him because Carney is a carnival worker. And this guy's great, boy. But he's coming out with and saying that Obama's stimulus program is working. And one of the reporters said, but wait, you said that according to the charts that with the stimulus program, we'd have 7% unemployment now. And you know what the guy said? He doesn't want to relitigate history. Well, we're really at about 22% unemployment when you look at John Williams' stats. So when you look at the lies that are being told and the Bernanke failures, yeah, it's a dictator that they want to topple, but more important, Max, the merger of state and corporate powers is called fascism. And that's what's really going on in America because they really starting to clamp down. They know that things are getting out of control and they're really going to try to stop it before it spreads.
All right, Gerald Celente, I'm reading the news coming out of Wisconsin and Ohio. There's protests in the street. There are union members. They're labor is part of the labor force. Now, here's the question. The way the media is portraying these people is as pesky union members and pesky laborers that don't get the whole post-Reagan neoliberal revolution. Now, here's the question I want to ask, and maybe you can help square the circle for these people. To me, and I would think you would agree, what these people are experiencing in Ohio and Wisconsin is not the problems that are regional and specific to their labor issues with their local municipalities and governments, but it's part of a global problem where the banks have disenfranchised countries and communities around the world. But how do you get the people in Wisconsin and Ohio to understand that their plight is pari passu, if you will, to use a banking term, with the revolutionaries in Egypt and the revolutionaries in Tunisia? How do you get them to understand that they're all on the same side against the bankers?
I think they're starting to understand it. You mentioned the media. How about calling them the press? How about calling the press the prostitutes? Because that's what they are. I just mentioned this guy, Carney, who's now the mouthpiece for the administration. Hey, where did he come from? Geez, Time Magazine. And who's his wife? Oh, Claire Shipman with ABC. It's the same school. So you're not going to get it through the media. It's going to go through Journalism 2.0. And Journalism 2.0 is who you are, who I am, who others are, that are not part of the mainstream media. And the people are starting to understand it. Even the people that have been disconnected are putting the pieces together because they know it's about the bottom line. But here's where the difficulty comes in. As these revolutions start to take place, what they then do is they find the new communist. And the new communist today is the Muslims. So what they're doing is they're trying to shift it from being a bread and butter issue to a religious issue. It's that stupid saying that they say all the time. You know, all wars begin because of religions. No, they don't. They begin over money. It's all about money. But to answer your question, they are putting it together. All things are connected. Workers of the World Unite 2.0. That was our trend forecast, as you mentioned, a couple of years ago.